data is very, very important, especially in the sectors of finance. Very thrilled, and thank you so much, Venkat, for joining. So me and Venkat go on a long way. Venkat has been a schoolmate and a friend long time ago, almost what? I don't want to talk our age. It's like probably just 10 years ago, 10 years before. And it's been very interesting. So we had a chat once and I requested him to share his insights and his data points on how all of us as MSMEs could look at understanding data from a corporate finance perspective. So that's been for today's agenda. So Venkat has been an engineer by profession, then moved into software and then moved into finance. He has been one of the key persons in the financial sector for a long time. He has been one of the contributing members of, building an international bank. He currently works for a consulting advisory firm, astute professional in finance. It's like a right, we used to always, have this feeling whenever we used to work in the earlier in our employment sector, there is a person who's an engineer and then he does his master's in management. Wow. And that's like a crazy, deadly combination. And this particular engineer not only does that from a management perspective, he has taken another step, which is finance. So obviously it's like a 360-degree appraisal. So 360-degree professional. Amazing to listen from him today. I would just want to quickly go and give the mic to him. Thank you so much, Venkat, again for your time, your effort to come by on our platform. Real pleasure. Over to you. And we will talk more.
Absolutely. My pleasure as well. As much as actually, Venkatesh has been calling me Venkat, very, very simply put, right? It's like I have worked in the finance space for almost 2 decades now. Been not only in India, but have looked at a lot of actually transactions, being the M&A transactions, or a lot of the Forex hedging, a lot of those different aspects globally as well. So my task here is not necessary to actually tell you what your business is and how it is, right? Because you guys are actually expert in what you do, be it the jewelry business, be it actually the manufacturing sector, be it the trading sector. Where I can actually want to throw some light, if I may, is to give you insights as to how the outside world looks at you. And mainly when I say the outside world, it's the overall investment community, be it in terms of equity, be it in terms of banking, or all those different things, right? And I have seen institutions grow up the value chain. So it's very important to give you that perspective. But before I get there, let me actually put a quick disclaimer to you guys, right? When I talk to you today, it is just Ram Iyer, speaking to you, and these are my own views based on my experience and not of the institution that I work for. Neither do I have any financial interest with Tathwamasi, so primarily just here to make sure that, we are there to give proper guidance to you, to make sure that everyone actually succeeds, especially with a lot of new avenues that the government has opened up, to make sure I make things easier for you to understand and how you represent yourself to the world, right? So what is it that I will actually cover for you today, right? There are 3 things that I want you to actually deal with and make it actually very simple. One is, what is the benefit for you to invest in a good data management framework? Many a times people run their business or finance related to how accounting is. I have to pay my taxes, I have to pay my GST, end of the month, do this, that is accounting, that is not finance, right? You need to understand what is the benefit of having good data management system will actually help you. The second thing is, once you make up your mind that yes, mentally, because monetarily it's not going to be a big investment, right? You already have PCs and Excels and everything, at least to begin with. But mentally, once you make up your mind that yes, this is the right investment for me, at least to begin with, you should know what is the kind of data should I actually start capturing for my business. I will go over a bit of that as well. And last but not least, what you should know is the data is as good as the user who uses it. So how do you use that data? Let that data actually work for you. So very key basic things, why you should actually focus on enabling good data management from a corporate finance side. What is it that you should capture? And once you have captured it, how should you use it? Okay. With that said, let me go to the why. And I have actually, been across all the three different areas, where what I have listed here, and all of them are actually very important. Literally, every one of you who have your own business have banking relationships. You have probably, tried to actually get some kind of actually loan from the banking institution. I have sat on the other side, being a banker, evaluating micro, small, large corporates for different kind of requests that they have come. And I have known what are the areas where they stumble upon in getting a good financing line, right? Also very important, is based on the credit decision that gets done. It is also impacts the interest rate. Obviously it was MCLR plus something, the spread that they actually give to you. That is a big aspect of the credit decision that gets done. That impacts also the credit lines, your working capital limits, and also to the point of when you're requesting, if you're in the export-import business, having letters of credit, bank guarantee lines, it impacts actually everything. So it's how you walk into a banking relationship. The first impression really matters, right? Everything on top of it, it's like you can actually build up on. And that also, in a way, shows how disciplined you are in terms of your management. So the quality of management is also actually comes across based on the way that you have a handle on things, right? So that is the banking part of it, your leverage side of the business. Now, as you go up the chain, let's say from micro to SME, SME to actually large corporate, and obviously there are different thresholds for all of that. You would be also be seeking, capital from different investors. In today's days, there are tons of actually private equity firms, venture capitals, angel investors who will actually look at you and assess you based on the way you have your pulse over your entire business operations, right? And based on how good you actually portray your institution, it's like you walking up, it's like to a date, right? It's like your first impression really matters. And here your first impression is the quality of actually information that you have on your business. That will determine the premium, the multiple that they actually add on to your EBITDA to get your enterprise value. So let's say, it's like you just walk up there, not having a good handle on things, you might get a discount on some of the other deals that could have actually happened. The same thing, if you have very good control, there is a very high chance that you could get a slight premium on the multiples and hence your overall enterprise value, right? So it's all of these elements require minimal investment, but the discipline that you actually build out here will help you get better positioning in the marketplace, not only from debt side, but also the equity side. The other element that I will actually tell you, which you will come across as you become large organizations, is at the end of the day, you will have a lot of people reporting to you who will say, I made, it's like 20 crores, 50 crores deals and everything. You will realize very soon as you go up, as the promoters of institutions, is data is your only friend. People might say 100 different things, but if the data is not showing it, it is not there. So it's very important for you to understand that if you don't have and if you don't invest in a good data management framework around your entire finance, it's very likely that people will take you for a ride. And as much as today you have extremely very good pulse and hold over your business, I can assure you that as you grow, There is not enough time in the day for you to actually take all the decisions, for you to be on top of every aspect of your business. So trust me, it's like the structure and the framework that you build today will go a long way, and data will be your friend for a long time, right? Now, initial data is one thing, but also what will help you is understand how can I actually take care of better cost, doing predictive analysis, for my cost in different aspects. And I'll give you a few aspects of it, right? See, what I speak to you today is things to actually put seeds in your brain to actually explore further. There are a lot of good books. There are a lot of people who are experts in the space. But at the same time, unless that you put that seed and you let it nurture and see the value of it, it's very difficult for you to actually move up the chain and put that extra half an hour, 1 hour of your day to build this thing. Okay. So hopefully this gives you some perspective of why it is important for you to build a good data infrastructure. Now, let me move on, and I'll give you actually time, as you go by to actually digest the why. Assuming that you have actually said, yes, I need to, what is the kind of information that you should actually capture, right? So Venkatesh, if you can go to the next slide, please. There are tons and tons of data that will come out of your business. To a broad aspect, I will put this in two categories, and you should start capturing this as soon as possible, right? You have the financial data, you have your ratios, all the details, which is obviously you have a very good hold on as to what's happening today. But that is one very critical element people will talk to you about. Operations data is also very critical because that defines how your actually business will actually show and run in the future. So the more data that you have today, right, you start actually building that information now, you will start seeing a trend for you to make good decisions. And I'll get into the details of some of this. But at the same time, it's very important for you to actually keep a lot of the qualitative data also as well. And all of these elements, in addition to some other, will also be very critical when you actually talk to your bankers, right? Again, I'm going to the banking example because there are a lot of schemes, even at an immediate basis, that the government has come out to give out liquidity to the MSME sector. But at the same time, all of this liquidity is coming through the banking network, right? Through the banking channels. It's not that it's free money, you go to the government and collect actually a paycheck. No, it's something where you still will have to work with your fellow bankers. You will have to go through their process of underwriting. The only aspect is that, it's like, be it, no collateral loans, or actually on their side, they are actually getting those loans guaranteed by the government. Your relationship with the financial institution, it's going to go for a long time. And what I will also actually guide you, at least, when I come to how you should actually present your data next, that is also very critical. It is one aspect of it where I've had people who have come to me when I ask for data, it's like hodgepodge, 1 year data here, there is no consistency of the time duration of the data or the way the data has been actually captured. It is very important that how you actually represent yourself. For example, when I'm taking at the financial data, if you maintain the sales history, let's say you start today, it's like, and every passing day you actually have any kind of sales data that actually goes in there, that's actually very critical. Now, in addition to your sales data, there is also the aspect of pursuits, right? You might have actually have 100 pursuits, which led to for you to do actually probably 10 tenders that where you were selected. Out of that, one is where you really won the deal. So probably it's 1 out of the 100. So the sales history is just actually that 1 out of the 100. But what you're missing is there were 100 or 99 that you lost. Is that a learning that you can gain from that? So I'm not jumping, or I'm not asking you to jump to that level yet. But as you grow your business further, the more insights that you build into your data will be actually very critical. Also to the point that if you're actually investment rich, what kind of investments that you're making. It's like that data is very critical because, people, let's say, put it in one mutual fund and then forget it, or put it in a property and this, it's like at cost value, it actually goes out there. When you're managing a company, every line in your balance sheet and financial statement is something that you have to very closely monitor, right? It's one aspect of it to actually say that yes, it's like it's my family business, I have been doing it this way, and this is how I do it. But as you start getting, it's like and you very clearly actually see the entire framework moving away from family business to people looking at it from a proprietorship, away from LLP or LLC or the OPCs. The audit aspect of it will become very critical. People will start questioning, why didn't you actually make a decision when things are required. Cost of goods sold, EBIT and EBITDA, very important. It's like earnings before interest taxes, earnings before interest taxes, depreciation, amortization, all of that is extremely important for you to keep a handle on. Because when someone asks you, especially an investor asks you, let's say you meet a wealthy guy, in the elevator, you introduce that you have a business. Quickly, there is an interest. You'd say, okay, fine. What's the EBITDA that you're actually doing? And he will, in his head, try to put a EBITDA multiple as to what is the value of your business. So these things should be at your pulse. Interest coverage, net profit margin, return on capital employed. See, these things, obviously, it's like pretty straightforward. The better information, the higher the number that you have on these, definitely it's good. So what I'm saying is, move beyond running your business based on a cash flow basis to more of an enterprise value basis. A cash flow basis is money come in, money go out. There is just actually a cycle going on. When you move it to an enterprise value basis, you will start seeing a different perspective of your business. Instead of thinking about your business, for example, as let's say you're doing overall 10 crores of overall turnover in a year. Instead of looking at it that way, you will start thinking about, what is the EBITDA multiple? My valuation of my company today is, let's say, it's like a 10 times multiple, 100 crores. You will start thinking differently. The confidence that you will have on your shoulders will be actually very different. So start thinking about it very differently. And also very important is how good control that you have on the operations data. Your inventory, are you using first in, first out, last in, first out? What kind of mechanism that you're actually using for the assets that you're purchasing? If you're having machinery, fixed asset maintenance, are you doing a good log of it? Your internal controls, it's like, obviously, I'm not talking about the financial controls. It's actually the controls over your business, the operations controls. How good are you in managing the data of your operations controls? What is the quality of your operating cycle? And this means that from the time you actually you put some capital to actually purchase some assets, till the point of actually realizing the sales and the revenue walking in out of that sale, what was the entire operating life cycle for the inventory, for that specific inventory? And the shorter you can actually bring down the length of that operating cycle, the more money you have, the more cycles that you can run in a year, which means that you can churn your money much longer, right? So every piece of this will help you increase your overall financials and build better actually valuations for you. One thing is very important, it's like, and I have seen this, I have actually been the other side, right? As a banker, is try to diversify yourself with the number of banks that you deal with. As much as every bank would say, I want to be your primary bank, just do all your business with us. In today's world, it's like a couple of last year, the year before, one of the large banks also had a huge problem. So diversify yourself. It's very important that you diversify it, not only from a risk from a banking perspective, but if you're, for example, in an export-import business, you will see you're undertaking huge transaction costs for getting a LC or a back guarantee letter from the institution, and that's where the banks make a lot of money. So, and it's very competitive, so you can definitely try to see how you can position yourself on the better end of the bargaining table of how much the banks charge you. And the more transactions that you actually do, you also have a better power to actually dictate the rates. Again, if you're actually import export related, trading related kind of a company, also very important is the country that you're dealing with, because I know when institutions look at the ability of the institution, especially the credit rating of the company which comes for a loan, the country and the rating of those countries is also very important. So keep all of these things in mind, from a quantitative data perspective. Obviously, there is a lot more to this, but at the very minimal, if you have a good handle of your operations and your finance data, it's absolutely very critical, right? On the qualitative data, customer insights, I believe, I'm not going to go into the detail. There was actually a class, I believe, a lecture on customer data and how to use that, but that is actually very critical. Banks will also expect you to understand if there are any litigations on the company. You cannot go running at that point. Keep a hold on that. The manpower's technical skill set, especially if you're running a bigger shop, for example, if you're running BPO kind of functions, if you're running, different elements of heavy manpower, you will need to know, what are the kind of manpower skill sets, because those are assets that the banks will actually look out for. As we go on, KYC, has become over the last few years extremely important, and we have a lot of institutions cracking down heavily on suppliers or clients which have, it's like dealings in uh, um, unnecessary areas, right? So KYC, as much as you might not know, but there are a lot of actually government websites where you can actually also go, and people you can talk to understand before you get into dealings with actually various suppliers and clients. Financial control data, again, extremely important. It's not only, so one aspect of this is operations control. The financial control comes into place because the quality and the consistency of how you do your financial statements, balance sheet, that is also very important. If you're having, it's like, if you have outsourced your entire accounting to a third party, it's very important for you to also have a chat with them as to what are the controls that they have in place, to make sure that, it's like the information that they are using has the right controls, because many institutions use third-party networks for putting all their financial data in, because then the third party just files their GST, does their accounting and all of that. So it's very important for you to have a very good control over the financial control as well. Last but not least is, again, when significant management decisions are taken, it's also very important to actually document it, record it, because at a later date, when you are talking to investor or any of the others parties, you should be able to articulate why you actually made a specific decision, right? So, see, I'm not sure across the different institutions where you are in your life cycle, but trust me, it's like, I have seen growth stories in India where within 2 or 3 years, people have gone from having a turnover of actually, it's like 50 crores to easily 4,000, 5,000 crores in 4 or 5 years, because the demand is there. There is significant opportunity. And at that point in time, when someone asks you for your company information, if you don't have at least 3 years of, ideally it's actually 5 years, but even if you don't have 3 years of data, you would be looked up down upon a lot. So don't think about it as to do I need it today. Think about it is what I'm planning to be, what I'm thinking of what my business would be 3 years from now. If you feel that you will be actually a very large company, trust me, it's like do this investment, and it's not a heavy monetary investment, but definitely it is a time investment for you to actually go ahead and do that. Now, given that we have seen what, let me tell you how to actually use this data. And these are obviously just a few snippets of how you can use it. But one thing is very critical is at any point in time, you should have a ready compendium. When I say compendium, it is like a binder, kind of a book which tells you what is your business, it's like at any point in time. And you can probably update this on a monthly basis, but anyone coming to you, you should have taken the time to discuss and think about what is my business today, across the aspects. Not only it's like I'm in the textile business or a jewelry business or something, to the level of detail. What is my business? Who are the management? You might be one person, but you can actually think about who you actually think will be the potential management that you should actually put in place. What kind of operating information, machinery information, all of that out there. What is your vision of this company? It's like, where do you see this going in the immediate future? The entire financial performance, it's like over the last 2 years, but also what is your plan for the future? And because that will give you a very good idea on what is your capital position today and what do you really need to actually take it forward. Because many times when someone will ask you saying, let's say you go to the bank and say, okay, fine, I need to buy a machine for 15 crores. I need actually a capital loan for it. That is just very pointed aspect to it. But it's like if you have a very good understandings and you actually tell the institution that this is actually the vision that I have, this is the market for my product, and based on this is what I'm planning to do, you come across as a lot more confident and have very good pulse over your business, right? So a ready compendium is actually extremely helpful. It's like it could be a couple of pages for now, but I have put together compendiums for actually a lot of large corporates, which will go into actually it's like hundreds of pages, but it very clearly actually dictates what is it about your company, and investors love, right? The other aspect is take finance beyond accounting. Accounting is not finance, right? Accounting is purely ledger and your state of your business, at that point in time. Finance looks behind, looks forward, and gives you a broader perspective as to what is it that you have to actually run. So differentiate in your mind between your CA, your accountant, and your corporate finance, which is a lot more broader and wider than actually what just the accounting aspect to it. And that obviously, it's like it's very important that your managerial reporting and your financial reporting, it's all actually consistent, right? When you are actually looking at a data, it's like it is very same today as what your accounting view is as well. It should not be that the end of the month you're doing the accounting and that is nothing much. As you move forward, there is obviously a lot more from analysis and intelligent perspective, be it based on your order booking. You can do smart inventory planning, capital planning. If you're in the forex, lot of export import, it will also give you an idea of hedging foreign exposure because hedges are expensive. So you will also have to see what are your natural hedges and what are your true financial hedges that you need, right? So there are different aspects to it. So let me actually take it back at a higher level, right? Say it's very important again to tell you that think through it as to how you will use this data. It's like and make up the plan and invest it, right? So hopefully I have given you a perspective of what you should be actually looking at. And if you have any questions, more than actually happy to actually answer that.
Sorry, I think you've really simply put very well. In fact, as you were speaking, one of the thought which came into my mind is each of your slide obviously has a couple of subjects which could have been a discussion point for a session by itself. I
Sure.
really don't know how do we do that, but I definitely feel that at some instance of our time, maybe we could probably leverage that and look at it as a session by session, because each of the points what you very simply summarized are so critical, and let me just quickly try and understand, especially on the banking relationships. And we have been privy to such kind of situations where most of the MSMEs, in fact, not only MSMEs, even at the SMB level, when we talk about, working on analytics, and these are the challenges which they go through. And I think, yes, and there are so many aspects of managing your working capital. We are anyway doing a session specifically on working capital next week by a different gentleman. But I think the perspective of how data is relevant is very much clear in each of these points. Now, before everybody asks the question, I have a very curious question to ask, and I think you have touched it very rightly by saying that finance is not accounts. So, as an MSME company, if the company is at, say, a 15 crore or a 20 crore plus, turnover, and I'm sure that most of these companies are so much, so much visible about, vocal about analytics in their different functions, especially in the functions like sales, marketing, customer care. They use different kind of software. CRM is available. In the financial aspect, I think it is still, there is a lot of dependency on a chartered accountant or a company which is managing their GST. Now, how do you suggest for an MSME to build that analytical vertical inside accounting stroke a financial domain of that MSME? And that is one of the keys which most of the people could take it up and probably work on. So your views on that, how do we actually look at setting it up?
Okay. So, see, like I said, at this point in time, I'm not expecting, at least, let's say if you don't have any data warehouse or anything actually internally, I can tell you that there are, several really cheap or free actually databases in the cloud that people can actually start with. Okay. Now, and every piece of data that you actually use or actually you make a decision on, you should just start recording it, right? It's like, see, if you're not at all have no idea of how data should be structured, there are a lot of actually small companies, firms who can actually advise you on that. I believe yourself included, Venkatesh. But my view is very clear: is that let's say you're talking to a supplier. If the supplier is actually giving you 100 pieces of a hardware in, let's say, June, and next month he says that I can just give you 50, those are two data points. Now you keep collecting these data points, you actually get more about one supplier, then you'll get about two suppliers, that kind of a thing. Every piece of information that you actually capture will get you better understanding of, it's like how that operational data is actually stored first. And once you store the data, then you can actually move to actually using that, right? So your employee salaries, your additional transportation cost for the goods to go from A to actually, let's say you have 5 clients and your goods are going at 5 different days to these 5 clients, and your transportation cost is actually X. So, technically, there is a concept called ABC, activity-based costing, right? What that does is trying to actually understand, based on the data that you actually store, how you can minimize the overall cost of your running your business, right? See, many of the other broader data elements that you use, for example, be it for marketing or all those different actually aspects, is a cost to the firm. that's increasing your cost. This element of data management will actually help you decrease the overall cost, and that's why increase your overall profitability.
True. Yeah. So that's completely right, and we have seen that. Now, one of the other things which I wanted to understand from you is this compendium. I believe most of the companies who work on a very large scale enterprise levels. I definitely know for sure that when I used to be working in a couple of MNCs before we should have this. So how relevant and how easily a compendium can be built, especially for an MSME sector, considering there are few data points. I may not say that. One of the things which I wanted to understand was when you spoke about reporting. So typically, if you see, and with my considerable amount of time which I've spent with the MSME sector, the reporting genuinely has been a P&L statement, which is a year-on-year activity, which is held by the definitely the third-party support, like a chartered accountant and someone. So please share your questions on the group or privately to me or Sanjana.
Yeah, what I mean to say is that there are quite a lot of reporting for day-to-day purpose at various stages, like marketing or financial, or even for your stock control level. There are very standardized reports specific to different verticals. And these are all nowadays more available in the market, readily available.
Absolutely right.
So you can plug and play. Because I come from the financial side, I work on the enterprise side, like a large scale business transformations. I have a deeper understanding where you're coming from and what exactly you're looking at. So everything is available. All you need to know is what you want exactly. If you are clear, what is your requirement and what is your expectation, based upon that, you can pick and choose what you can get in the market. That is what I'm trying to say. It is not like you don't need to revamp everything, building the whole data warehouse or whatever we used to see in a traditional world. Now the things have been changed, and things are always available, readily available in the market or by any vendor. That's what I see personally.
No, that's very true. So I completely agree with you, because when we used to interact with MSMEs, they have so many different. So every software, for example, a financial software which could be anything like Tally or Zoho Books, or as a matter of fact, even any other app-based financial software, they have so much of initiatives and reports which you can deliver. Similarly, every company has a different multiple system. There is a CRM system where people can definitely generate a lot of reports from there, which gets connected to your other kind of businesses. There are HRMS systems, which are HR basic, HR functional based of softwares, which can give you functional data. So I completely agree with you, Vijay sir. It is definitely, there is a lot of it's more of a buyer's market today in that area rather than a seller's market on the amount of data and amount of dashboards which can create. The point I was trying to add on that was, as a SME, MSME, how we can actually start from a perspective of becoming a data-driven organization. So there are some accounting principles which we already have, and that is there always. You can't go away with it. There is a GST filing on a monthly basis, which is like no option. And then there is an ITR return, and there is advanced tax, and there is, a yearly tax assessment. So you can do an advanced tax planning. So there are certain things which are there. And obviously, if it is a private limited company with certain more regulations in place, there would be audit in place. These things are more post facto and accounting, and from a data perspective, these are necessary as in post-mortem report. But how can we look at a approach where I build an analytics intelligent resource or an analytical approach in a system like finance, which has always been an accounting and a post facto, submission. And that is something which we need to build, and that's where we are working towards.
Okay, that's brilliant. I can give my view on that particular point. They are quite, if you currently in any of your MSME area, you have any system. It can be Excel or it can be anything, raw data. You're storing in some form where you can do a little bit of analysis on your local machine, saying that this is my supplier analysis, this is my spend analysis, this is my procurement side, my purchasing order analysis, or some spreadsheets. Wherever you have stored the data, it's quite easy to build the data points around that. Based on those data points, you can build. If you don't have anything in any electronic format of these data stored in anywhere, then it's a little bit of challenging. You're trying to revamp or you're trying to electronize your entire paperized functionality into electronic format. That's where you see a little bit challenging. But these days, I can see a corner shop in India is already started maintaining a small laptop, desktop, whatever it is they're using, because I come from the business background. So we see in our own distribution area, we have the machines and where we collect the data on a day-to-day basis. And we see in Excel, and we put out some small charts and dump the data, raw data, into one particular spreadsheet, and the graph or pictorial or a dashboard will come out with a certain amount of data. That's how we build what is required for that level. So when it comes to MSME, you're having a manufacturing plant, small scale manufacturing plant, and you're dependent on a supplier or you are dependent on a farmer based agri product. You have a certain level of information, what are the data points in that area. If you have anything in electronic, it's easy now. It was quite challenging. If you ask me 6-7 years before, but wherever we are seeing, not only in Europe, but in India also, I can see that quite a lot of people started capturing information in electronic format. If you capture in electronic format, you can turn around whatever you are expecting is easily achievable in short span of time. You don't need to spend too much. You don't need a big data warehouse. You don't need a big analytical platform. All you can do is use the basic Excel, use the basic out-of-box free tools, what is available in the market, and build your structures. That's all I would say.
I completely agree with you on that. We'll just wait. I've just pinged Venkat again. But yes, and it is something which is one of the most critical things for all the MSMEs and SMBs to understand that, thinking about data analytics is not an expensive proposition, because, I just completed a round of 9-10 sessions for a large amount of people on building a data-driven enterprise. And one of the key things which we keep on talking to people is your Excel itself is it's an abundant in terms of statistical analysis, statistical tools, and it itself can give you a headway in building an analytical approach for your organization. So one of the key things which we keep on telling everybody is, don't get into this thought process of, is analytics only for large corporates or large data points. I think data analytics works for everybody. It's about how you would want to look at it and what are the key questions you want to ask, and every possible aspects, especially in an MSME environment, starting with the frontline businesses like sales and marketing, HR, and also to a certain extent certain data analysis approaches, especially looking at linear regression or using any kind of initiatives can be done definitely with the Excel only to start with, and then we probably move into Solver. Solver is an add-in. It is one of the most cost-effective, add-ins in Excel, which could take care of all possible. Okay, you have dialed in. Okay, he just dialed in. Sorry for that. So yeah, just to quickly conclude that point of discussion between you and Vijay, myself and Vijay sir. So yes, that's what we keep on helping organizations to understand. You need not really get into a large scale application or any kind of a large scale software or a platform or even a SaaS proposition. Before that, you could probably start things with using Excel as a basic tool. And when I'm talking to this, trust me, there are companies with 400, 500 CR manufacturing or FMCG businesses also who do look at an area of concern when it comes to an application of analytics. In fact, there are companies which use FoxPro and Foxbase today to run their production data points, and they use those kind of databases. And that is where we try and definitely seek them to understand how they can transform themselves to a next level. So just to I completely agree, Vijay sir. There are a lot of opportunities and things available where you could probably definitely look at driving your financial analytical approach even from your basic Excel.
But one thing actually, let me say, right? You see, analytics is a state of mind, right? You start with Excel, you need not invest in anything, but as long as, you have that state of mind that I want to actually use a lot of the data to actually make decisions for me, that mindset itself will actually have you start in the things that you have. And then as your organization grows, definitely there are a lot of sophisticated tools that you can go after. But at least, as you, I'm not sure which stage of the cycle of the institution you are, but, if you have that mindset, you can choose the right tool.
Definitely. So, yes, sir. Okay, so sounds good. Please, any more questions? Can I have people? Somebody was asking me some question. Please, Venkat is back. You can definitely ask your questions to him. So we are open on the floor. We already are.
Quick question. Do you guys only do on the reporting side, or else you guys are in the area of helping export, import startups?
Sorry, could you please repeat the question, Vijay sir?
You are mainly looking at the reporting and data intelligence side, or you're trying to support any startups on the import and export area of process side as well as?
Okay, so this question is addressed to Mr. Venkat Ram Iyer, or is it addressed to Venkatesh? So there are two different.
No, I think it is more specific to you, Venkatesh.
Okay.
I think, from an institution perspective, you can actually answer what is the support that you can provide.
Okay, so let me break that question into two parts. The first question which you referred was, do we support in terms of reporting analysis? Yes, we do that. And we have a team of data scientists who work with us. So we are proficient in working on R, Python, and that's why we work as a technical expertise. We're proficient in SQL as a database, and also any kind of a database for a structured and supervised and both unsupervised learning. Point number one. Point number two, when it comes to startups, we do a lot of work with startups in terms of mentoring them, especially to become a data-driven organization. So we work in 3 levels of business, and depending upon the data literacy of that company, and that's what I keep a term data literacy, because there are some organizations which I start as low in the data curve, which could be a 0 to 3 or a 5 crore turnover companies, where most of the data is not on the digitalized way. So we do something known as the first step, we start with something known as a data audit, and which is what we try and build up. So we try and get to know the entire digitalization aspect of that company. For example, all the touch points, if I come and meet you in your company as that company, and am my data being captured in the right way? So that is something which we start with, which is known as digitalization. That's just step number 1 to verify whether you are a data-driven company. The second, what we do is, and I have seen this with my experience in most of the large also companies, where the data workflow, especially one function to another function, data workflow is not seamless. So there are some data points which are not transparently shared for whatever obvious reasons, either to do with buffering of the budget, or possibly to do with, because being a small entity, there is a reservation to share data. So we try and build a data workflow for them, where we try and address their key MIS reports, key data points, what kind of databases are they using, and how much of data is being actually captured in terms of the reports or dashboards. So that's something second we work on, so that we give them a very seamless data workflow process, which helps them to understand well, if I have to, as a head of the business or a head of sales or head of marketing, if I'm privy to all the different data workflow information, it gives me a lot of clarity about which can impact what. And that also drives the organizational ability to make more prompt decisions. And the third is we go a little case study approach, where we try and address any one of the decisions which the entrepreneur has taken before on his entire approach of his business, and which could be a gut-based approach. So we try and always say to the entrepreneur that, this is not, data is not replacing your decision. Data is probably adding a lot of value to your wisdom. And that is exactly we do in the third part of the audit, which is known as, focusing on his existing decision making process, which could be for the last year or the last financial year. It could be of any vertical across the board. It could be a pricing decision, it could be entering a new market decision, or it could be hiring a particular team decision, or it could be a change in the approach of the product or the distribution decision. So we try and address those decisions and see and validate whether that decisions which had a particular outcome has given them that right outcome, or there is a variance in that. And we try and see that what could be the reason of that variance. So that's something which we do across the organization at different levels. The first level, which I spoke about, the organization which doesn't have anything, we try and help them to set up that basic things like, getting a financial software recommendation. We are not into the sales of software for any of the existing ones. Then we recommend them a CRM system based on their business, based on their outcome of the business and the nature and the sector. Obviously, if there is a Salesforce automation required to enhance the sales productivity, we recommend that. And that's step one, where we end up by helping them with building basic MIS reports and presentation opportunities, so that they keep on focusing on those data points for get them to get to the next level. Now, the second level of companies which have certain amount of flexibility because they already have some good financial systems like a Tally or probably any of those embedded in their company, they also have a CRM. Now, our large 2.5, 3 years of learning says that 70% of the companies who use CRM seldom actually leverage the entire CRM approach, because most of the CRMs are not leveraged importantly in the most optimum way, because the data itself is not fed. So I have encountered so many CRM companies who use CRM, but they don't actually leverage the visualization part, because one of the key things in data science is to first identify your data point, do some data mining and get some visualizations in place. And that is actually a challenge because the data itself is not there. So we try and help them to address that area first at the second level, and which gives them a little bit of an information about how the data is flowing. And then we probably help them to build a BI level intelligence, which is a dashboard. And we work on visualizations there to help them to give a BI based intelligence. And that's the second level of entrepreneurs and the companies which we work with in the entire MSME sector. Now, the third level is a far advanced level, typically where the company has a very firm BI system in place. They have their databases in place. And here the objectives are very clear. There is an objective of XYZ. And then we move into the pure play analytical role, where we try and address whether is there an objective to be met. It could be an exploratory process or a diagnostic process. Or for example, everything, the variables are ready to understand. The data cleaning is basically done here. And then we move into the prescriptive and a predictive model. And here we use definitely a lot of supervised learning models, or it could be an unsupervised learning, especially from an insurance sector, or an distributor of an insurance sector who would probably want to understand from a new database key whether these people would take a personal loan or XYZ loan or not. So that is what we do from a perspective of the advanced level. And we also get into specific web-based analytical input. Somebody would want to know who's my right or target customer basis, the campaigns, what they've done. And that's a pure play analytical model which we work with, which has a clear data science process, right from getting to know the question, understanding the data set, or cleaning and sourcing the data set, then moving into a little bit of a mining, then creating a visualization, pre-analytics, and putting and working and defining models for analytics, then again a visualization on sharing those outcomes of the analytics, then definitely a large amount of time is spent in explaining the particular outcomes and to correlate that with a proper decision making process. And that's the entire value chain process which we handle to the client. So that's what we do, and it could be across the vertical, across the segment, because we feel that data cuts across and it's agnostic of a sector. There could be possibly one or two key best practices, and which is typically shared in most of the analytical companies and most of the analytical presentation, could be in healthcare or pharma. But I personally feel that at every moment of a company, any manufacturing segment or it's a service segment also, you need to define your objectives to build a model end of the day. So, Mr. Vijay, does that give you some sense of what kind of possibilities we could probably help you with?
Yeah, I got a fair amount of idea what exactly you guys provide as a service.
So, any more questions? Yes. Any other questions? Okay. So, Venkat, I think we are good to go. So, what I will do, Venkat, is I will share our email ID with your reference to all of them, and please feel free to write to us. We will share this presentation on our YouTube channel. Maybe just a little bit of pruning in terms of first and second half an hour slot before, and we will share this on our YouTube channel. So do have a look at it, and please feel free to write to us at info@tathwamasi.com. We'll be more than happy to connect you with Venkat on that for any specific questions on the financial aspect or corporate finance. And also I would request Venkat to, we could probably connect on this again, and maybe we could elaborate each of these activities in detail, which could be definitely more of a webinar than it would be more of a knowledge series for us than a webinar, and that could give us a lot of support, especially for all the MSME sector. And that's what I want to really look forward to. We will connect on that. Again, thank you so much, all of you, for this time. It has been a pleasure to have you all. We also have tomorrow a gentleman known as Navnath, who's going to talk about, he is a telecom person. He's going to talk about the journey of being from physical to digital, especially in the post-COVID era, where the things are really changing, where all people are working from homes, and how it is important for all of us to move from physical to digital, and what are the key things which you should start looking at for entrepreneurial business. So that's for tomorrow. Stay tuned tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Thank you so much, Venkat. Thanks a lot for your time. It has been a real pleasure. I think the information is very compact and intensive. So we can probably break this down into a couple of more sessions separately, and we can have very focused discussions on each of the points. In fact, I would be more than interested to understand the compendium part, so that we have certain people talking about it, which could also help us to build a data-driven, build a data audit process. Maybe we could build that up and help them to get out from that particular data set to building a compendium. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, Venkatesh. My pleasure, and more than happy to work with you to actually give any more sessions. Definitely.
Thank you so much, Venkat. Thanks a lot for your time. Thank you, Vijayji, for your questions. Thanks all of you for your time. Have a lovely evening. Thank you, Lord.